Monde Vide is the debut full-length album from French death metal band Mortuaire, and these guys have been around for a short period of time. I believe this was kind of a pandemic-era death metal project between folks who are better known from sludge metal and post-metal bands. It seemed like they came together just to play a good old bolt thrower-inspired death metal record, and that's kind of what they did with their debut EP. It turned out it was actually really good. They put their sound to good use with plenty of solid riffs. It really kind of hit the mark as to what it was doing, and now they're back with a full-length album several years later, and it's pretty solid. Instead of going on about where they're coming from right away, we'll cut to a clip and just get a sense for the sound of this, and then I'll kind of state the obvious as to what this is and why it stood out to me. So while their earliest recordings, their first tape, gave you a sense for what they were intending at the time, Mortuaire have obviously spent several years putting together this record so that it counts. And what I mean is that these folks have worked it out riff by riff into something that is actually closer to death doom metal a lot of the time. It's very strong atmospheric death metal that does a couple of things similar to maybe a band like Jade, where they throw in some shouted clean vocals and other performative movements that add to a very strong sense of atmosphere that really stands out for this style of death metal, because it goes from something bolt thrower-esque to something entirely different by the end of the record. The longer the song, the more they've kind of developed where that song goes, and usually it's into a doomed corridor of some sort. They tend to have an unexpected twist to a lot of their death metal riffing. Otherwise, it is fairly standard death metal in a modern sense. It is a huge, well-produced record. It sounds great, and it still has just a little bit of the bluntness of classic death metal in some sense. But this is obviously several generations removed, and not necessarily as anxietous in its rush to the riff and guitar detail. A lot of the more detailed bits of this album are in the atmospheric side of things overall. There are obviously songs here that stand out, but there's not a ton of songs. So this is really just a record that I found I just put on and play, and it just kind of hit the way it did. The machinery of the record was obviously solid. The riffs were quite good, but nothing stuck to me right away. It took me a while to really appreciate not only the riff craft, but actually the piecing together of each of these songs as something that's not random. And so the result is above average for the sake of its arrangements for the most part, but I wouldn't say these are necessarily memorable pieces. That you're going to probably have to sit with this record a little bit and like this style to buy into it as much as I have. For my taste, this is a high recommendation. It's a very strong debut album, and from an unexpected place. I appreciated the cover art, the production, the lyrics are kind of interesting, but mostly I was there for the riffs and the huge sound of the album, and that's the main reason I think that is going to be universally appealing to most death metal fans who appreciate a mid-paced to slower death metal sound. So check it out yourself. It released on March 7th, and go ahead and read my written review for more of my thoughts. Show